I really am thrilled that y'all are here. It's such a blessing. So I'm going to really start with some really bad Spanish because mi español es muy mal. uh, me llamo Obispo Marty Shanahan y lamento que mi español no sea muy bueno. He preparado copias de mi homilía en español. So, no tienen una desean obentir, por levantan la mano y se le llegar antes de comenzar. So, gracias por acompañarnos. Gracias por su fe y gracias por su presencia orante. What I said is thank you for your faith and thank you for your prayerful presence and thank you for being with us. And the homily, if anybody needs it, is in Spanish and it's right back there. Does anybody need a copy that you could follow along? You got one? Excellent, excelente. It just helps a little bit sometimes to know what people say. Okay? Oh, gracias. De nada. So first, let me begin by saying welcome to everybody who's visiting. I know I've said it a couple times, but I really want that to come through. We hope that you find this liturgy to be a little bit of joy and a respite from this world. It's an honor to celebrate with y'all and pray with you to be and honored by these baptisms of these two amazing children. In April of 1966, I know I'm old, sorry, but in April of 1966, Time magazine ran a cover that became renowned for centuries, and it looked like, and it said this. If you're old enough to remember, and if you're not old enough to remember, that issue caused a cultural firestorm, right? The Pope got ticked, and so did everybody else. There were people who were mad that Time put this out. There were people who quit their subscriptions, and look at it. It cost 25 cents. I don't know if you can see it. It's 25 cents in the corner. 25 cents. It caused a cultural firestorm. And the reason that it did was because it called out the reality that they just simply asked the question, is God dead? Is the church dying? Are things changing so much that we don't know what church is anymore? There were theologians who were in the process of trying to develop a theology without God. I don't know how you do that. A theology without God is like an oxymoron. You can't do one or the other. But they were beginning to ask because we had the scientific movement and people were like, this doesn't make sense or this doesn't make sense. And like, how do we make sense out of a church that seems to be dying and people are not going, etc. But I, for one, I'm willing to stand with you today, and I hope you're willing to stand with me and say, I do not believe that God is dead. I don't believe that God is dead for a minute. I believe that God is actually revealing God's self to us in many different ways and in many new ways, and we sometimes are kind of blocked from seeing it. While what I do think is what is happening is the church, our tired image of church, is actually dying off. With this whole thing, like me, like a hierarchy and gathering people together like this, that image is dying off, that reality is dying off. But what's not dying off is the fact that God is continually trying to reveal God's self to us and is doing it in new ways. There's new spiritual communities coming together on Sundays to worship. There's new places where people are discovering their spirituality, where people are finding, believe it or not, God on a golf course. I can't do it because I can't hit a straight ball. But other people can find God on a golf course. Lots of people can find God in nature. Lots of people can find God in mindfulness meditation. Lots of people can find God in tons of new and exciting and different ways. It's just that we're not used to it. And so we don't think that God is alive, or we think that the church is dying. And I don't think either is the case. Some are finding this connection with the divine to be new practices in their being. God is actually being rediscovered. Actually, I believe that God is being rediscovered as a God of relationship rather than a God of laws and dogmas and doctrines. That's the beauty about it. I think God is saying, I want to be in relationship with you. I don't care if you broke the 10 commandments. I want to talk to you. I want to walk with you, right? I want to be with you. I'm not worried about whether you came to church last Sunday or didn't come to church last night. That doesn't make any difference. What makes a difference is I want to be in relationship with you. That's what God is trying to do in our world today. And sometimes we're like, well, that's not how the church works. And I'm saying, well, maybe that's how the church needs to work. And I think that's what we do today. In fact, artists often help us to realize when something is amiss. And in 1970, this was 1966, right? But in 1970, there was a really cool country artist by the name of Lynn Anderson. And I don't know if you remember what she sang, but she sang a song entitled Rose Garden. And the very first line of that song is, I never promised you a rose garden. There's got to be some rain sometime, right? A little rain along with the sunshine. In other words, God never promised us just this wonderful, easy walk-through path of life. But what God did promise us is that God would be with us in that walk, right? And sometimes it's going to be hard, and sometimes it's going to be miserable, and sometimes it's going to be painful, and sometimes, like today, it's going to be ones of pure joy, right? That's what I think God is trying to tell us today. What we do when we celebrate a sacrament like we celebrate today is we celebrate that divine encounter where God literally reaches out to Charlotte and reaches out to Mattia and says, I want to be in relationship with you. I want to hold you. I want you to know that I'm in relationship with you and will always be in relationship with you. That's what God wants in our lives. And God does that by symbols, right? Water and fire and garments and all these other ways that we continue to remind each other that, yes, God is right here, fully present, fully here today in this thing. God is not dead, my friends. God is alive and well and being found and celebrated and honored in ways that we never would have thought. It's not magic. No sacrament is. What it is a relationship and a reminder of a relationship that every sacrament is a gift of the divine that calls us into relationship with God. The claim that this sacrament places on each of us is the claim that places that responsibility for that relationship directly on each of us. I mean, it's my responsibility now to make sure that Rachel and Peter and Kelly and David and Emily, Emil, and I'll get it, hold on, Daisy and Ray, Rizal and Rena. It's our responsibility to make sure that you guys have everything that you need to make sure that the faith is fostered in their lives. I don't have to hold you accountable to anything. My accountability is to you. Our accountability as a Christian community is to you. That's what this sacrament does. Welcomes you into God's people. So as we step into this sacrament, let's remember that life isn't a rose garden. There will be rain and there will be pain. There will be disappointment and there's going to be times that we fail to live into the holiness that God has placed deep down in us and in them as well. God will never, never, ever leave us. Jesus came for that reason, to remind us that God is Emmanuel, God with us, right? That God is always and always will be with us. So let's celebrate that love. And if you want to see the hands and the face of Christ, which we often claim we can't, I'm going to invite you to simply turn around to someone next to you and smile, because you'll see Christ. And if you want to feel God's presence, reach out and touch their hand of someone near you, and you'll know that God is present. God is not dead. God indeed is right here. So let's celebrate that. Let's joyfully share our faith with Charlotte and with Mattia and their families. Shall we?